says rotate your phone. I don't know if we're live.
Hi everyone, and welcome to today's live ZooToYou. I'm Katie, one of the educators here at Stone Zoo. Jen, who you might remember from some of our videos last week, is behind the camera today, so you might hear her chime in from time to time.
Hi everyone.
And today we are so excited to introduce you to our Eastern screech owl, Owlfredo. She is a real hoot, and today we are going to teach you all about her and Eastern screech owls. Owlfredo is kind of like in owl school right now, so she's learning how to sit on my glove and how to meet new people. Just like we go to school to learn new things, she's in owl school right now learning how to be an animal ambassador. Now, one question I'm assuming is going to be asked about Owlfredo is asking if she is a baby. She is pretty small. She's only 9 months old. Her hatch day isn't until June, but she's actually considered to be full grown for her species. Eastern screech owls only get around 7 to 10 inches in length, and they usually only weigh around half a pound, which is how much Owlfredo weighs. So if you want to kind of compare that to something at home, she weighs roughly the same amount as 2 sticks of butter. So she's really light. You can see she's really just balancing on one of my fingers right now. And that's because flighted birds, like owls, have hollow bones. Eastern screech owls, they are one of the smallest species of owls found here in New England. They do live right here in Massachusetts, and they're I think the only one that's smaller, the only smaller species is the saw-whet owl. Their range extends all the way from, northern New England south into Florida and Texas, and then all the way west until you reach the Rocky Mountains. On the other side of the Rockies is where you're going to find species like western screech owls. They can live up to 12 years in human care and up to around 8 years in their natural habitat. Now, Eastern screech owls have some very owlsome adaptations that we're going to talk about. One thing I really want to mention are these tufts of feathers on top of her head. These look like ears, but they are just feathers. They're called ear tufts. Not every species of owl has ear tufts, but Eastern screech owls have them, great horned owls have them. And that ear tuft is something that can be raised or lowered, and it just helps them channel noise down into their ears. So it helps them just kind of increase their sense of hearing. Their ears are actually located under all these feathers here. So their ears are not visible, and their ears are asymmetrical. That means one ear is going to be up higher and one is going to be lower. And that's actually really beneficial. It helps them kind of triangulate and find out where a specific noise is coming from so they can best determine the location of that noise. Owls are also known for their really great sense of sight. In fact, their sense of sight, their vision is around 10 times better than humans. Owls have a lot of rods in their eyes, and that's the part of your eye that receives light. So that means they can see really well in low light or even no light. They do not have many cones in their eyes, and that's the part of your eye that receives color. So they don't have the best color vision if they have any color vision at all. Now you might see that Owlfredo is moving her whole head to look around the room right now. And that's actually because of owls' eyeballs. If I want to look around the room, I can keep my head forward looking at the camera, looking at all of you, and I can move my eyes from side to side independently from my head. Owls can't do that. Their eye sockets are fixed in their head, and that means if they want to look around, they have to move their whole head, just like Owlfredo's doing right now. In fact, she's probably the only animal that I can't face towards the camera because she will look wherever she would like to look. And right here, I have a replica. So this isn't real, but this is a model skull of a barn owl. And you can see, if I can hold it, their eye socket right here, that's fixed. So that's where their eyeball would sit. Now, owls also have really special feathers. Owl feathers are a little different than other bird feathers and even other feathers from birds of prey. Since owls do their hunting at night, they're hunting animals that have really great senses of hearing, just like mice. They need to be really quiet while they hunt. So owl feathers actually have a special fringe on the ends of them, and that helps to break up the air really, really well, so they're almost totally silent. And I have one of Owlfredo's feathers right here, so you can hopefully see a little bit of that fringe on the very end. Now you might also notice that Owlfredo's coloring is pretty unique too. She has a lot of shades of gray, white, and brown, and that's really beneficial. Not only do eastern screech owls want to blend in so they can hide from their prey and be super stealthy, but they also have lots of predators. They are a small species of owl, and there are owls out there that are a lot larger, like great horned owls, that will prey on eastern screech owls. So this camouflage helps them find their food, but it also helps them stay safe from any predators. We actually have a photo that we took last week of Owlfredo outside, and you can see her up against a tree and how it's really difficult to tell what is owl and what is bark. Now we learned that owls want to, still learning, they want to blend in so they can find their food. Make sure she's comfortable. Awesome. And owls are carnivores, so they're only going to be eating meat. Eastern screech owls, since they are pretty small, will eat some invertebrates, so large bugs. They'll eat small reptiles and amphibians and small mammals. And they don't use a fork and knife to cut up their food into small bite-sized pieces. They eat it whole, and that means there's going to be a lot of animal parts that are not going to be easily digested. So what they do is a few hours after they eat, they regurgitate an owl pellet. And owl pellets are made up of fur and bone and all those things that are really hard for them to digest. And this is actually one of Owlfredo's pellets. You can see it's actually pretty big compared to her body size. And they usually regurgitate these around 6 hours after they eat. Now, Owlfredo has a really special story of how she came to be with us here at the zoo. If you were able to tune in last week when we talked about Bubba and Smokey, the black bear brothers, you learned that they were rescues, and Owlfredo is actually a rescue as well. Last spring, there was a tree company here in Massachusetts doing some work, cutting down some branches, and they accidentally removed a branch that contained an eastern screech owl nest. There were still eggs in the nest, and wildlife rehabilitators will try to place those eggs into a surrogate nest if there's one available, but there were no surrogate nests available at the time. So Owlfredo was incubated as an egg and hand-raised by people. She was raised at the Trailside Museum here in Massachusetts, and she came to live with us at the zoo when she was around 3 months old. So since Owlfredo has been raised by people, she's imprinted on people, so she likely sees us as really big owls or herself as a tiny human. So she wouldn't be able to survive in the wild. She wouldn't be able to fend for herself or to find her own food. So she has to rely on people for those things. So we were really happy to provide her with a home here at the zoo. Now, like I mentioned, we're training her to sit on the glove. So I was just going to talk a little bit about what that looks like and what all these different things are. So we use positive reinforcement to train Owlfredo just like we do with our black bears. And that can be things like novel foods, so treats that she doesn't get all the time. She really likes crickets and mealworms, and it can also look like affection. So since she was raised by people and she's very comfortable with us, we've been building a relationship with her over months and months. She also really seems to enjoy head scratches from her caretakers as a form of positive reinforcement. Sometimes she's a little more willing than others. So with this glove, you might see I have a really thick leather glove on. This is just to keep my hand nice and safe. She does have sharp talons. Sometimes she holds on pretty tight, so this keeps my hand safe. Attached to the glove is a leash. Just like you might have a leash for dogs at home to keep your dogs safe when they're out, we have a leash to keep Owlfredo safe. That attaches to this bright green thing called a jess, and those jesses go through anklets. Just like we might wear a bracelet, she has little anklets on her legs, and that just makes sure she stays nice and safe with me. She is fully flighted, so if something unexpected happened, maybe there was a loud noise, I just want to make sure that she's going to stay nice and safe with me. And I think we're going to take some questions.
Yes, so Joyce would like to know, how old is she?
She is 9 months old. Her hatch day is in June.
All right, and John wants to know, where is their natural habitat?
They live right here in Massachusetts. So their range will extend south into Florida and Texas, and then all the way west into the Rockies. And they live in forests, so a forested habitat.
Catherine would like to know, what does she eat?
What does she eat? That's a great question, Catherine. So here at the zoo, Owlfredo gets ground meat, which she really, really seems to like, and she also gets mice.
John would like to know, what are owls' predators?
That's a great question. So it's probably going to depend a little bit on the species, but for eastern screech owls, their predators might be larger owls like a great horned owl, can also be domestic cats and dogs, coyotes, and animals like raccoons, skunks, and opossums will also prey on the nests and eat chicks or eggs.
Christine would like to know, do they bite?
Do they bite? That's a great question, Christine. At the zoo, we like to say anything that has a mouth can bite. So they absolutely can bite. Owlfredo really seems to trust us. We've just been building a relationship with her for months and months. So she doesn't often try to bite us, but they absolutely can bite.
We have a question from Chelsea. She would like to know, what's your favorite thing about Owlfredo?
Oh my goodness, Chelsea, it's so hard to pick one. One of my favorites has got to be the little long feathers near her mouth. They kind of look like whiskers. I also really like it when Owlfredo takes a bath. We do give her some shallow water that she can take a bath in, and I really like it when she does that.
Heather would like to know, will she ever be on exhibit?
She will likely not be on exhibit. Since she is an ambassador, she lives behind the scenes with us here at the zoo.
Tracy is asking, what sounds do they make?
Oh, that's a great question, Tracy. So you might have heard a little trill noise that she made. She's kind of going all over the place right now. They can make this trill noise. They can also make a screeching noise, which is how they get their name, screech owl. And they can also make a whinny, kind of like a horse does.
Megan wants to know, how long do they sleep for?
That's a great question, Megan. I'm actually not sure. If I had to guess, I would say probably around 6 to 8 hours. I'll have to look that one up and get back to you.
Ashley would like to know, does she like when you pet her?
She does, especially since she knows us and she's very familiar with us.
Michael would like to know, how many times does she eat per day?
That's a good question. So we give her mice at the end of the day. Since owls are nocturnal, they do most of their hunting at night. But in the morning, we do give her a snack and she gets her meat in the morning.
All right, I think we have time for one or two more questions. So Janka would like to know, how long does she live?
How long does she live? Since she's living with us here at the zoo, where she gets top of the line vet care, she gets her nutrition made for her daily, she doesn't have to worry about any predators, she can live up to 12 years. In their natural habitat, they really only live up to 8 years.
And Luke is asking if you can cut their talons.
Yes, we can cut their talons. It's just like us cutting our own fingernails. So we will trim her talons and her beak actually around every 6 weeks, just to make sure that they stay at a good length where she can eat and grip onto everything really, really well. All right, everyone, we are just about out of time. Thank you so much for joining us for ZooToYou with Owlfredo today. Make sure to check back tomorrow again at 1:30 for more videos, activities, and games. Be sure to check out our Kids Corner page for even more activities that you can do at home. Bye!